Hello and welcome back to the Thought Cloud podcast. Our goal of this conversation is to tell the story of inspiring students to inspire other students. Our guest today is Emily Abrusci. Emily is at University of New Hampshire right now, where she is going to tell us all about her path, why she got there, how she got there, what she's been doing, and all the lessons that she's learned along the way. So Emily, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So let's kick it off from the beginning. How did you decide University of New Hampshire was the school that you'd be going to?
It was a little bit of a crazy decision. I'm originally from um, Nevada, where I went to high school, as well as a few other places across the West Coast. So I hadn't yet lived out here on the East Coast, and New Hampshire was a bit of a stretch from where I used to live. But being from Nevada, there wasn't many opportunities to study environmental conservation and sustainability in a landlocked desert. So I knew that I would have a lot more opportunity elsewhere. And I just threw out all my applications at every single school that had a good life sciences department and offered sustainability as a major, and just kind of went for it. I got accepted at UNH, got a decent financial aid package, and came all out to the freezing tundra.
I love it. I love it. Why conservation? Tell us about that. Environmental sustainability and conservation. How did those, I mean, it's one field, but how did that field stick out to you as something that you want to study?
It's pretty prevalent out in Nevada that water scarcity is a really big issue. On top of that, my mom and aunt are what you would say crunchy, and they've kind of grown up very frugal and very zero waste and very anti-consumerism in a way. And so that was just how I was raised. And then going out of that and learning that a lot of people didn't see things the same way and kind of put the environment on a back burner instead of as like part of every decision that they made. I realized that by doing that, I was, in a sense, an environmentalist. And as I learned more and more, it's a bit of a rabbit hole. And one minute you go from, oh, this is a topic that interests me, to like pulling out a handkerchief at dinner to steal food scraps and put them in your compost at home. And it's very it's very easy to go from one side to the other very quickly. And as long as you have like a passion for it, which is what I found in myself, then it like comes very easy, and I just always want to learn more.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's funny how things kind of unfold, and obviously, you know, your mom and your aunt being so involved, like of course, that's going to rub off. And now you're at University of New Hampshire, which is a huge school for sustainability. They've got a lot of great programs. The Sustainability Institute being one of them. You've been a Sustainability Institute fellow. I think it was last summer, right?
Yeah, I worked with Seacoast Eat Local, which is a local nonprofit that connects the Seacoast community with local food and local growers. And it's a really cool opportunity that I got to take part in, that was through the UNH Sustainability Fellowship, where they got to take on me as an intern, even though they're a nonprofit, and it was funded through a generous donation by Unitil. And this allowed me to do diversity, equity, and inclusion research on their 4 summer farmers markets across the Seacoast. And so throughout the whole summer, I did surveys and focus groups, and just generally attended all of these markets to see how people were feeling at these markets and what kind of experiences they were having. And it was a really cool opportunity where I got to learn a lot about not just the sustainable ag side of sustainable food systems, but the community side of it.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I think a good place for us to go is when you got into UNH. So obviously they're big on sustainability, but you started as a zoology major. That was what you thought you wanted to study. Tell us about how that changed, getting there, thinking that's what you wanted to study, and then turning into environmental conservation and sustainability.
Mm-hmm. So I applied and got accepted to zoology. At that point, I kind of knew I wanted to switch over to environmental conservation and sustainability, but I knew that I really liked the life sciences side of it. So I didn't want to get sucked into, I guess, the math or carbon clinic side of sustainability and environmental conservation. And that's like why I had started in zoology. And I had a lot of these like predisposed thoughts about what certain majors were and what kind of requirements those were. But once I had talked to the department head, I learned a lot more about like how wide environmental conservation is and how it really can encompass everything that I want to learn about, which is why I did end up switching into it. Especially since starting in zoology, there was a lot of chemistry and biology requirements as well as physics. And I can say I'm not the best at math, and I'd rather count squirrels in the field than do large calculations on a computer.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I am a math guy. I'm a math nerd. I love to do the numbers. So I'm glad that we complement each other that way. You can count the squirrels and I'll do the formulas. I love it. So tell us about your curiosity in this field then, because I think that's a great segue. What about this space are you most interested in studying and looking into further and, applying your efforts?
One thing that really led me to the field that I'm in now is like really that drive and curiosity, in that like I have a lot of interest in a lot of things, but it's like sustainability that I keep coming back to. And like even in my free time, I just want to learn more about. And I'm just so excited and passionate, especially when I look at like even the subsect of sustainable agriculture, which is one of my minors, and then eco-gastronomy, which is my dual major, and just
Say that
how
again. What gastronomy?
eco-gastronomy.
Eco gastronomy. What is that?
Eco-gastronomy is kind of the combination of sustainable agriculture, nutrition, and critically thinking about food, and really knowing where your food comes from.
Hmm. Interesting. And so some of the implications of that would be what?
Um, the implications would be knowing not just the origin of food, but like every aspect that goes into the food that you eat, and the different kind of perspectives that people see that with. So it's not just a tomato that came from Mexico, but it's knowing the labor that went into it, the transportation that went into it, how that tomato is going to affect your body, how other people see tomatoes, and how that might change based on culture, and
Right.
just being able to critically think about food.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then with so many different types of food coming from so many different types of places, you have to kind of say, which one do I want to focus on, right? Is that kind of that area that you're in right now, is how do I want to tackle this space? Because like you just mentioned, so many different facets. How does one start?
Mm-hmm. I think it's really getting into the nitty gritty of sustainable agriculture and seeing what sparks the most interest for you and what you feel that your skills complement the best. Now, I'm again from Nevada, a landlocked desert. We don't have too many farms. So I, compared to many other of the UNH students, don't actually have a big farm background or know everything about the uses of a squash. But I do know a little bit more about community and community supported agriculture and how we can combine sustainability and agriculture to create better learning systems, and um, basically just how we can create more information around agriculture. And so that's where my interests lie. And there I could, end up doing research on, specific berry types or hybrid tomato plants. But I think I'm more interested in the bigger picture project side of bringing together community and science,
Mhm.
through sustainable ag as a whole.
Interesting. So then that group of people that you'd be looking to impact, is that the everyday you and me go to the store type of people, or is there a group of people that maybe, makes a decision on purchasing, or them as a whole? Like, how does that look for you? Who are those people?
Mm, I would hope to have an impact on at least one community, maybe even the wider community of a country or a state or a general region. But like you said, everyday consumers like you, and being able to educate yourselves about the food that you're eating and think more critically about the decisions that go into that, with more equity as well. And
Yeah.
so I'm not sure what that means for me, but I know that I want to make sure that food is more accessible to people, as well as information about that food.
Yeah. Have you been able to see anything out there today that you would consider is doing a good job at that? Like any people maybe on social media or any groups on social media, or yeah, I don't know how else anyone gets their information nowadays, but have you seen anything that you're like, wow, they're doing a good job? Like I really, love what they're doing.
Actually, when I worked with Seacoast Eat Local this summer, they're doing a pretty good job as an example of connecting community members and food. And they have so many different programs that a lot of people don't know about. One of which is Education for Kids, where they go and they do like a little demonstration, and they give the children a bag of raw vegetables, and then they go home and they get to make a whole meal with their family and get to learn what all of these different ingredients are and the different things that go into making a meal,
Mm,
even as just like, elementary schoolers. But Seacoast Local also offers SNAP benefits at their farmers markets, and they went so far as to take an intern on to do diversity, equity, inclusion research for their markets. And I really think that they're looking through a lot of different avenues and doing a lot of different very important programs that I like to hope that I can be as innovative as them in the future, and possibly kind of make that nonprofit field wider.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess in the sense of this field as a whole, what do you see the future of it looking like? What does that ideal situation, how does that come across for you?
I think the ideal situation would be that the everyday consumer knows more about their food and is has more respect for it. I feel like there is a lot of innovation that can be made in the agriculture field, but it leads us to some questions about how much those people are getting paid, and whether or not that innovation is really being seen or heard or funded. Um, and that kind of gets put on the back burner. And because agriculture and food is such a big part of our everyday lives, I mean, most people have to eat 3 meals a day.
Right.
Um, and yet we don't think about the people behind our food or the things that go into making that food. And I guess the impact or the bigger picture would be having more people think, care, and respect about the food that they eat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's important. Even just throwing stuff away. I feel like that's so easy to do, is just throw away a lot of food. Um, and I know that's maybe not as big a scope as what you're tackling, but I think about that too. It's like, why would we cook this much if we're not going to eat it? Anyways, but I like where your head's at. I like what you're thinking, and I think that you've got a lot of passion behind it. And speaking of, some of the things that you've been able to do on campus, the Holloway competition and the Draper competition. Tell us about those and how you were able to, kind of put forth some of these thoughts around sustainability, into practice in front of a large stage, and really spread your message.
Yeah, so I this is a little bit more off topic from the sustainable ag side of things, but everything is a learning experience. And coming straight into uh, college, I really only knew what I knew from Nevada, which was a really big emphasis on water scarcity. And so the first thing that I jumped into was knowing that I wanted to do something about that, or had a lot of ideas on what I could do about that. And I signed up for the IT Passport System, which is a program through the UNH Entrepreneurship Center, where you participate in a lot of different events at their offices and in their building. And through that, get points by how many events that you attend. And then whoever has the most points at the end of the semester, 1, 2, 3, gets a scholarship. And so I was, very committed. And despite the fact that I knew nothing about entrepreneurship, or business at all, I knew I wanted to win the scholarship, so I signed up for every single event. And that included applying to the Holloway competition and competing in the SVIC competition, which is the Social Venture Innovation competition run by our Sustainability Institute. And through that, I was able to start this business project called Great Water. And our idea or our innovation was being able to replace the fresh water in toilets with gray water, so that that water being flushed down the toilet didn't have to be fresh water going to waste, but was actually water that was recycled. And so this was a really cool idea, and me and my team were really passionate about it, and we went a little hard on the competitive side.
Love
And
that.
even as freshmen, we ended up in the National Draper competition and finalists on the Holloway competition, and that led to us being summer seed grant winners, where we developed a prototype. And I haven't really stuck with the project as of late, but it was a really cool opportunity, and I'm so glad that I was able to participate in all those events.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to hear what you learned about all those, what you learned from all those events. But I think kind of an interesting way to wrap it back into what we were just talking about, your passion for sustainable agriculture. You can go into something and you can find that you're really, really passionate, and then something else comes along the way and you find that you're more passionate about that. And I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to understand and be okay with. Once you're on the doctor route, you got to go on the doctor route. And, once you're on the lawyer route, you got to go on the lawyer route. Or once you're on the, water conservation program, you got to stay on the water conservation program. How did you come to grips with the idea that you wanted to switch? How did that make sense to you?
Um, I really think that I wanted to get out of what I already knew. So I already knew a lot about water conservation, and I wanted to get more on the life sciences side of things and get out of that predisposed, like knowing about Nevada and knowing about water scarcity. And I was more passionate about being able to connect with community than being able to start a toilet manufacturing business in my sophomore year of college.
Right, right.
And I also felt a little bit in over my head with the whole project, and a little bit of an imposter in that, I was a freshman competing in these competitions, and I didn't know that I deserved to be there because I wasn't as passionate as person X, Y, or Z. And so not having the same passion as them kind of made me realize that my passion was elsewhere.
Interesting. Interesting. How does that how do you reckon that? I mean, you're coming to these competitions, you're kicking butt, your team's getting grants, and you're like, well, hey, this is great and all, but I just I don't like it. It's not what I'm passionate about. The imposter syndrome, getting over that. What do you suggest to people that are going through that? What do they need to look? How do they need to look at themselves to figure out their right answer?
I would say, like, it doesn't matter how like traditionally successful or how many things you have under your belt or how long your resume is, but to just follow what you want to do and want to learn more about. Whether or not you feel qualified, you should take every opportunity. And, I took that opportunity and I said, I am going to do the best that I possibly can with the opportunity that was given to me. And I did feel a little bit over my head, but at the end, I still learned so much. Whether or not I wanted to stay in that field, I learned about public speaking, I learned about business, and I met a lot of really important and valuable people along the way who taught me a lot. And so I guess it's just like imposter syndrome is going to hit us no matter what, like whether you're at Harvard or just regularly taking a couple classes here or there. Like it's hard not to feel like you're not doing enough.
Right.
Or yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think that's the right way to put it, especially if you're driven and you're ambitious and you're passionate. You always want to be doing more. And just being okay with the fact that there's always more to do, I think is an important realization. So, yeah, making sure you like it. I think that's really, I like that. I like that you were able to make the switch. That's what I mean to say by this all. That's important for you. And now that we're kind of coming here to a close, after college, what do you hope to do? Are you thinking graduate school? Are you thinking PhD? Are you thinking get into industry? What's your idea?
To be honest, I'm thinking that most people's paths aren't linear, and I don't want to constrain myself to the idea of trying to force myself onto a path that I don't know what it looks like yet. And so I want to be flexible with, I'd like to go to grad school, but if there's a grad school that offers me a really good scholarship, I'll go. If there's a job that maybe will lead me to like pay for my master's later on, then that might be a better opportunity. And I guess I'm just, as a senior, gonna look at all the opportunities in front of me and figure out which one I think I will be the happiest with and which one will benefit me the most going forward, whether or not it's the traditional grad school or high paying job. I just want to be able to look at my options and make a choice from there.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, there's no reason to have it all dialed in and all, buttoned up. I think it's important to weigh the options. So that'll be fun. It'll be fun to see what the next couple of years hold for you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to close it out with a couple rapid fire questions here. So I let you look at these beforehand. So I know that you're going to have some quick answers, but the first one is, what is your favorite book?
Okay, I don't like this question.
Oh,
Um,
really? Why not? What's wrong with
because
that?
I'm a really big reader and
Uh-oh.
I like a
Okay.
lot of books. So
Uh-huh.
rapid fire, I would say The Giver, but more recently I've been really into Taylor Jenkins Reid's like books. And then in general, I would say I would have a more preference towards fantasy just on an entertainment basis. But quick answer, The Giver.
Okay, quick answer, The Giver. You heard it here first. Okay, next question. Who's your most influential role model? Someone that you've had as a mentor?
My dad. He is very charming and very genuine and has a lot of integrity, and every flaw that I find in myself, he has the opposite, and that makes me want to be a better person. So if I'm angry, he's calm, and if I'm frustrated, he's like he likes to smooth out a situation, and he just encourages me to do better and think better and be the better person in every situation, even if I don't want to be.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's wonderful. Next question. What is the most stressful part about being a student day in and day out?
Honestly, I think the outside life of being a student. So not just in the classroom, but when you go home and you have to do dishes, or when you want to be able to hang out with your friends, but instead you have to study, like it's being able to balance a life and being a student and knowing that you're still like a human being who may have to work a job or make yourself food and doing this or that. And I'm like, sometimes I wish I could just have a meal prepared for me every day and like come home and have no problems at all. But it's like it would be easier to study that way, but sometimes it isn't. And I've learned a lot more recently.
Yeah, and then the room's more messy and more messy and more messy. And you're like, uh-oh, this is getting out of hand. You need to fix
Yeah,
this. That's funny. Okay. What would you say the most meaningful way for students to help each other is?
I would say being genuine, being kind, and actively helping one another. So being able to be honest, not just promoting something because that's your internship at the time and that's what you like are being paid to do, or saying like, oh yes, I'd love to help you, or I'd love to hang out, but not really following through. I feel like you really need to, if you're going to say that you're going to help someone as another student, like follow up on it. You want to make sure that they know that you're there for them and that you can um, meet those needs for them. And I feel like sometimes there's a lot of disingenuous help being offered here and there in college campuses with student representatives. Even I can be guilty of that with, you know, piles of things on my plate and knowing that someone asked for help and I was like, oh, sorry, too busy. But I guess just being able to like actually follow through and be genuine when you say you were willing to help someone.
Absolutely. All right, next question. What do you think the purpose of undergraduate studies are for students? What should they be looking to get out of them?
I think that there are many purposes that an undergrad time serves. For some people, that's honing in on something that they already want to know more about, that they a field that they are really passionate in. Other people, it's finding that field and discovering what's important to them. And then some, it's just getting your foot in the door. In a lot of cases, an undergraduate study is just like the basis requirement for a job these days. And sometimes, whether or not that's a liberal arts education or just going and figuring out what is passionate to you, sometimes that's where students find themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that answer. Okay, next question. This is a big one too. What is your biggest hope to accomplish during your time on Earth?
That's a big question that I wasn't really sure how to answer, other than I hope to make a lasting impact for more than myself, and for the better, whether that's for the environment or for a community of people. I want to do something that's going to benefit past my lifetime.
Absolutely. I love that answer. I think that's wonderful. All right. Well, I think that covers them all. I think that covers them all. We got all the rapid fire questions. So, Emily, I'm really glad you came on today. This has been awesome. I think that the future is bright, and I'm excited to see what is in store for you. Where can people follow you, keep up with you, and keep tabs on Emily Abrusci?
I don't have like a website or too much published work, but you can always follow my Instagram, um, EBA 11603, or search up my name at Emily Abruzzi and follow me. Please reach out if you have any questions, or if you want to know more about UNH or about sustainable agriculture or anything on that field that I've talked about. I'd love to talk to anyone who wants to learn more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Emily, it's been an honor. Thank you so much. And I look forward to chatting with you next.
It was great talking to you.